Welcome to the Gold Standard here on the 440 Sports Network. My name is Braden Gall. That is Emma Lingan from the Hockey News, and Adam Vingan filling in for Michael Gallagher has some personal stuff he's dealing with today. And we do appreciate Adam jumping in and filling in for the squad here as we discuss a come-from-behind dramatic survival third period for the Nashville Predators in Vancouver late on a Tuesday night, bringing us back to Smashville and Bridgestone Arena on Friday evening. I don't believe the time as we are live now, of course, I don't believe the time has been set. Hopefully it will be a time in which my tiny children can watch a dramatic game. So how are we feeling? Good morning. Good morning.
I'm going to guess. Good morning. I'm going to guess that it depends on the outcome of the Oilers-Kings game tonight, because that game would also be on Friday, Game 6, if there was a Game 6. My gut, this is just my gut, I think it's going to be like a 6 p.m. local start on
That'd be
Friday,
great.
because the other two potential games are both on the West Coast.
Great.
So those would be the late games, and this would be the early game. So I'm guessing 6. I'm guessing 6 Central.
Speculation on game start times. That's all we wanted to accomplish today on the pod.
All right, see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us, Adam. Emma, good to see you. That's it. Thanks for listening. No, if you're on YouTube, we do appreciate you guys, especially those of you out in Western Canada. Apparently, we're very big in British Columbia right now. Give us a little thumbs up on the YouTube page, of course. And if you're on Twitter or Facebook, please share, because it takes a little bit of time for everybody to get into the show. And if you want to jump into the comment section, we've already got plenty of you guys in there. So there we go. Was it a mistake for Vancouver not to challenge on Yossi's goal for interference? We will get to that. Josh just says, Adam, ! Josiah, Adam, ! That's multiple exclamation points already for Adam being in there.
I'm surprised that nobody has pointed out that, 2/3 of this group has a last name that rhymes with each other,
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Lingan and Vingan.
Lingan and Vingan, yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm needed here.
Yeah.
Hey, Braden.
I haven't seen anybody tweet they're happy to see you, Braden. Yeah.
No one has said nobody ever. Occasionally the 5-year-old will still run up and give me a hug, but the 7-year-old's already emo hipster, kind of like you, Adam. So we'll see. All right, so lots of stuff to get to. And I've got some nuggets from Michael Gallagher here that I want to make sure we get onto the show as well. He'll be back, of course, on our next episode, which we will do following Game 6, because there is a Game 6. So I just want to ask you guys a question first. I don't think Braden Gingan would work. I don't know how I feel about that, says Brandon. All right, so let me ask you this first. Because the Vancouver played a really, really good first period. They were clearly the better team. Saros made a lot of big plays. When Saros gives up a bad goal to start the third period, what are your percentage chance in your mind that the Predators can overcome that situation and do what they did? I'm not trying to, we'll get to the analysis of the power play and Yossi and the challenge and Tyson Berry's story and all this stuff. But I'm just curious, in your gut instinct watching the game, what percent chance did you actually give this team to come back from a 1-goal deficit on the road facing elimination?
Emma?
Because I just so everyone knows, if this wasn't already clear, I'm going to be insufferable today because I told you people that they were going to win Game 5 and everyone said I was crazy. Anyway, just had to throw that in there. But with that in mind, I think I gave them because like you said, Vancouver was a better team in the first period. Nashville was the better team in the second period. So with that in mind, I was kind of giving it maybe 55-45 in favor of Nashville to pull that off.
I'm going to go 1.1%, and I'll tell you why. 1.1%.
You're playing the role of Michael Gallagher perfectly already.
Right. Oh, yeah. He does it better than I could. I can barely play myself, let alone somebody else. The reason why I'll give it a 1.1% chance was because that was the expected value of the shot that Nikita Zadorov scored on to make it 1-0. The expected goal model gave that shot a 1.1% chance of entering the net based on all of the factors that go into that, the location of the shot, everything like that. So when that was by far the worst goal that UC Saros has allowed in this series, it felt like a backbreaker because of just how improbable it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I put the odds of the Predators, how likely that goal was to go in when it did.
But now,
all right, rainbows and unicorns, what you got for us?
That's me. That's my personality. Anyone who knows me. I'm literally drinking out of a mug right now that says a fun thing to do in the morning is not talk to me. So yeah, rainbows and unicorns over here.
I have a spindrift.
I got Dolly. There we
I
go.
don't
Now that
drink-
we
I
got
don't
now that we
drink
got that out of
coffee.
the way.
Good show and tell, everybody. No, my question though for Adam or whoever, because I mean I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I don't know if you watched the Dallas Vegas game from the night before and the shot that Dodonov scored on for Dallas. Having just watched that, it was a similarly just weird fucking angle that like looked like it shouldn't have gone in, and I mean, I don't know. I think having that fresh in my memory that I'm like, hey, stranger things have happened, or equally strange things have happened.
I think the theory, I think you're right though to say like, look, Vancouver, much better team first period. Nashville, they came out of the gate. Whatever that they talked about in the locker room after the first period was the right message. Whether that was a veteran or a coach, I don't know if they said anything about it in the post game, but I didn't catch anything. But they played a really good second period. Like they were the team with possession that were, and what they did in that period, which is what I think every Predators fan has wanted them to do since Demko left the series, is pepper the goalie with challenging opportunities. And they did that the entire second period. And frankly, she lost whatever his name is. I still can't say his name.
Nailed it.
He was excellent. Like he was completely composed in the second period. He did a very good job. And so when they gave up the bad goal, I'm kind of with Adam. I was kind of like, I'm with you, Emma. My brain was saying, look, this has been a balanced game. The Predators have an absolutely totally fair chance. 16 minutes to go. All you need is one to survive. You got to be playing with your hair on fire because you know you're facing elimination. I thought this has got a chance to be a really good 16 minutes of hockey. Turned out it was even better than we anticipated. But I'd be lying if I told you I thought they were going to win that game when he gives up a bad goal like that, because I'm just going, the things haven't gone their way. Now, as it turns out, let's get to Carrier. We'll go back to Yossi because there's a lot of you guys in the comments already asking about why Vancouver didn't challenge, which is the second time Rick Tocchet has chosen not to challenge in this series. So we'll get to that. But let's go to Carrier, who has had, by all accounts, a pretty bad series. He's gotten better as the series has gone along, but huge mistake in game one. He's sort of been a Twitter Preds fan punching bag in this series, has not played great. In fact, I should have said this on the last episode. I did not. I don't know if anybody caught this. He had a shot on UC Saros in game 4, right off of a power play. I don't think I said it last week on our last episode, but like they win a faceoff in their own zone and he like shoots the puck and Saros has to save it like from going into his own net. So Carrier, not a great series. But things had to go their way eventually because, as they joked in the post game about how that shot was like one of the weakest shots they've ever seen, it was perfectly placed, and one of those shots had to go in. They finally got traffic in front of the net. All the good scoring chances in the second period. It felt like nobody was screening or creating visual problems for the Vancouver netminder. So things eventually had to break their way, and for it to be Alex Carrier, I think is very poetic in this story for Nashville Predators fans.
Well, I just think too, I mean, even if he hadn't had the mistake earlier in the series, it's, if you think of like who are the big playoff heroes, it's never like your star player. It's always like the random, either like fourth line forward or something. Like I remember when I was in Carolina, the 2019 first round that went to 7 games against the Capitals, it was Brock McGinn. Like no one would have thought, but he was the hero of that series and won game 7 for him. So I was like, and first of all, I was saying this, I said it even before Paul Bissonnette said it on TNT, but I was like, this team needs a hero. They need someone to step up. And even as I said that, I'm like, it's not going to be Philip Forsberg or Ryan O'Reilly or Roman Yossi. I mean, Yossi did score the goal, but like I was like, it's got to be like an unlikely hero. I just had a gut feeling that's what it was going to be, and it was.
Yeah, it was like it was like the angle, like how far the shot got off the ice was like if you're skipping a rock in a pond, right? It was just barely skimming over the surface of the ice, and I think it was Ryan O'Reilly came right through with the screen. Yeah, I mean, it's not the prettiest goal, but the Predators didn't need a pretty goal. The one thing with the fact that the Predators have been playing 2 backup goaltenders through the majority of this series is, I thought the most important goal, we'll go back for a second. The most important goal of game 2 was the first one that Anthony Beauvillier scored. Why do I have balloons.
I don't know.
What was that?
Watch. Let's see if it does. I don't think my hand does it. Does it do the? I don't know. Somebody's celebrating your
very
kicks.
Strange. Someone apparently the stream likes my point, but
I think it's when you do this.
We've got our screen grab. There we go.
There it is.
That's my rainbows and unicorns for the day.
We've got our screen grab for social promotion.
That was very strange. Anyway, they needed the goal that Beauvillier scored at this to open game 2. Just a fluky goal. That's the kind of goal you need, I think, to get into the mind of an inexperienced goaltender. So the likelihood of that shot going in, I talked about 1.1% on the Zadorov goal. I don't know what the percentage chance is. I can look it up next time someone else talks. But, it was a long-range shot that barely got off the ground. And, Shilov's had been really good, as you said, Braden, up until that point. And to get that goal, I think it certainly demoralized the Canucks a bit, considering that they were pushing in the third period, and they had, I think, an advantage in the first period as well. So all told, I mean, this series has been pretty balanced. If you were to just take the numbers from all 5 games, they're pretty even. And, I'm sure, and shots and scoring chances and things of that nature. So, but the thing is, the Predators should probably be up 3-2 right now, not down 3-2, if not for the epic collapse in game 4. So, I feel like I remember I was in the news conference for Rick Tocchet after game 4, and he sounded like the coach whose team was down 3-1 because of the way they had played and the fact they were fortunate. They knew they were fortunate to be up 3-1, despite how they had, how they had played. So I think the fact that the Predators got one there, it starts to sow a little doubt, I think, in the minds of the Canucks. They have to do the one thing that they said they did not want to do, and that schlep their asses all the way back here. I mean, we love it in Nashville. That's why we live here. But that's not a short flight from Vancouver. Think about some of the other series that have gone on and how short that trip is. How many miles do you think that the Florida Panthers traveled in their first round series combined? Going to 2 games.
It's about a 4-hour drive.
Right.
Or
and they didn't drive. Let me put it to you that way. They didn't get on the bus and drive down.
DC and New York was the same.
DC and New York is very close.
Probably
Dallas
taking public transportation.
Right. Yeah. Dallas and Vegas probably is in a long flight. I think the second longest for travel is Edmonton and Los Angeles, but that's not as bad as this. So now they have to come back, and just like the Predators had to sit on that long ass flight the other day and think about what happened in game 4 and whether or not their season was going to end. Now the Canucks have to do the same thing coming back and wonder, did we miss our best opportunity to close out this series? So now the pressure that was on the Predators has now been placed on the Canucks, and now they have to think about that while they come back.
Going back to a lot of what you were saying, Emma, on last episode, which I don't believe in sort of the big picture of the big pictureification of a series in the moment. I really believe in that after it's over, win or lose. I really believe in taking time to sort of all right, let's really let it sink in. Let's really analyze what we saw. Let's really find the positives and the negatives and actually truly dissect it. I think that's better suited for off-season periods of time. But I do feel like last night's third period, this is what makes hockey crazy. To your point, Adam, about the series being balanced, if they lose that game last night and they don't score a power play goal and they finish the series 0 for 17 on the power play after scoring on the first one and they lose in 5, I have a very different feeling about the series than if they come from behind and win, which is not necessarily fair to either team for one period and one Alex Carrier, shot from the point to be the difference in how I analyze the team. But it does feel like it was supposed to go to 6 games. And even though we got there in a very strange way, it does feel like big picture analytics about this Predators team in the summer, because now they've gotten it back to 6 at least. If they get it to 7, I think that's when, Emma, your point of this team shouldn't have been here. They played over their skis. They learned something. They had 2 incredible moments of mental toughness, right? They come back in game 2 after choking in game 1 in the third period. They come back in this game and come from behind win after choking in game 4. Those are 2 incredible learning experiences for the younger players. And look, Saros hasn't been great in some moments. He's also been spectacular in others. So I think the the view of the series changed so significantly over one period, which probably, again, isn't fair. But I really, truly have no clue what is going to happen in Game 6. Literally anything. If you told me the Predators had 100 shots and lost the game, I'd be like, sure, sounds right. If you told me the Predators went 4 for 4 in the power play, I'd be like, of course that's what happened, because that's what we didn't expect. Like, literally anything could happen.
As Mike tweeted out last night that Game 5 was the first time that the team with the most shots actually won in this series. But still, like, again, Nashville's been doing a lot of good things. They held Vancouver to fewer than, I don't think Vancouver's gotten more than 21 shots on goal in any game this series. That's good.
It is the 92 shots on net are the lowest total number of shots on net through 5 games of any NHL playoff series in history.
There you go. Now, where did you get your information?
I believe that's Sportsnet, but I need to double check.
Okay. I'm just making sure it wasn't Hockey Reference. I don't want to go down that road again. But no, I think, like, look, maybe I'm in the minority. Actually, I will take off the maybe. I'm definitely in the minority, but I like to look at big picture in the moment, I think. And so that's why I was getting so fired up after everyone was so quick to write this team off after they lost Game 4. And I'm like, but yes, okay, the loss was very bad. And people were saying, man, I will say Vancouver fans were a lot nicer to me after the last episode than Nashville fans were. And so now that's why I'm going to be insufferable today, because I told you so. I just think that you have to look at it as the series. And like you said, you know, this series has been so weird and it's been so like grimy and dirty. And that's the thing, is like, I've been saying this, that you needed a dirty, ugly goal. Like, that's what needed to happen. I've been saying this since Game 2. Like, that's what you need.
Didn't Brunette say hockey gods after Game 4? Didn't he say something like,
yes,
we deserve some breaks? Like, they got
now
him.
I'm also gonna say, like, this is not, you know, a complete vindication of the Nashville Predators in this series. Certain things they've done really well, certain things they haven't. I'm sorry, Shelov's looked great in the second period. He did. This is not to take away from him. However, if you are a team you're facing a third string goalie and you have an offensive minded coach, you need to score more than 2 goals. Like, you need to do that. And number 2,
why are you so negative?
Don't even start. Yeah, I think I'm still reeling from the other day. That didn't sit right with me, how positive I was, and now I'm just doubling down. No, I think the other thing, yes, they finally scored on the power play, but good God, the power play has been atrocious. Like, it has been so bad. I mean, that first power play in Game 5, it looked like, I mean, whatever the strategy is, whatever Nashville's strategy is to, like, you know, right off the offensive zone face off to get into the zone to start the power play, whatever it is, Vancouver has figured it out. And they have shut them down every time. They can't get set up. And regardless of that, Nashville still isn't making adjustments on that zone entry. So of course, Vancouver's going to shut them down when you know exactly what they're going to do every time and you know how to stop it. So it's the goal production and the power play, which I think can go hand in hand. And this is, I kept thinking this last night, because Braden, we've said this before, that that special teams won't necessarily be the reason that you win or lose, or it won't be the reason you lose, but it can be the reason that you don't win. And I think, like, that's something that's got to get better if Nashville has a prayer in Game 6.
Adam, I want to ask you sort of what you've seen through the first 5 games that allows you to predict anything in Game 6. I know you're deep into the analytics on this. I don't think you can say that the Predators were the better team for the last 3 games. I think Game 3 is very strange to analyze. It's very difficult now looking back on it, because they really had no opportunity to really score a bunch of goals. But, like, again, they should have. So what's your sort of looking at the 5 games? You've got a couple of lineup changes here. You know, Luke Shen was out of the lineup for illness. We'll get to the Tyson Barrie story. You've had Tommy Novak, who's caught a lot of, you know, people saying, look, what you got to make a change here. Dante Fabro played pretty well in game 5. Like what, Emma, I know you've got thoughts on Ryan McDonough. What is it that you've seen through 5 games from a data standpoint that allows you to make some sort of prediction, or what do you want to see from both teams in game 6?
Well, first, I want to point out one thing as it relates to the power play, because obviously a lot of Predators fans' first thoughts when seeing how bad this power play has performed is remembering what happened in 2019 when the Predators went 0 for 15, I believe it was, in the first round series against the Dallas Stars.
Yep.
This is much worse because that team was the worst power play in the league in the regular season. So going 0 for 15 in 2019 was expected because that team was god awful on the power play all season long. This team was one of the best power plays in the league after the All-Star break. Now, credit to the Canucks, who have been fantastic on the penalty kill even before this series. I think they were
their blue line defense of the zone entry has been awesome.
Right. So I think in their past 9 games, so the last 4 games of the regular season and the 5 games of this playoff series, I think they've allowed 2 power play goals. So their penalty kill was playing well entering the postseason. But the Predators' power play was also playing well entering the postseason. So to me, this is much worse than 2019 because that power play was just awful all year long. This power, especially when you have a coach whose bread and butter is supposed to be, among other things, the power play. When you look at the series as a whole, I mean, one way to look at a series and see which way it could skew is just by looking at which team is controlling the expected goal battle. And at even strength through 5 games, Vancouver has generated 55% of the expected goals at even strength, and the Predators have generated 45% of the expected goals at even strength. So the Canucks have had the better of that. But I do think the Predators have done a good job of limiting shots. And I do think, of course, in game 2, they blocked 30 shots. I feel like they've done a decent job of preventing the grade A chances. Vancouver's gotten plenty, but I feel like it hasn't been as bad as it may look just by watching the game.
They've closed the talent gap with that type of effort, I think. Whether that's strategy from the coach or effort from the players, they've closed the talent gap, I think, in that department.
If you're looking, to your point, if you're looking at the rosters for both teams, I mean, the Vancouver roster is clearly more talented, naturally gifted than the Predators roster. Think about how dominant the Canucks have been in this series at 5-on-5 when JT Miller and Brock Besser have been on the ice. I mean, it's been hard to watch sometimes, watching the Predators attempt to defend the Canucks when those two are on the ice. And Pedersen has been MIA in this series, and he's incredibly talented. I mean, if he finds his game, that's dangerous for the Predators. Now, I think the Predators have done a good job of neutralizing as much as they can the impact of Quinn Hughes, especially in game 4, just beating the crap out of him early on. And it's funny. I talked to JT Miller after the game, and he said, "Look, if I'm the Predators, I'm saying this. I'm running Quinn Hughes every chance I get. It's the same thing we're trying to do with Roman Josi." Yep. But Roman Josi has been there. He's experienced the postseason, the real postseason. Quinn Hughes has experienced the fake postseason in 2020. So it's a learning experience for Quinn Hughes. But yes, I think the way the Predators play has, to your point, closed that. I think you said it perfectly. It's closed that gap in the talent discrepancy. And I would like to see a little bit more. I mean, Philip Forsberg, I think, has raised his game in the past few games. I even think Roman Josi has as well. But I think they both have more to give offensively. But this series, it really feels like a coin flip. It really does. Like if the Canucks close it out in game 6, I won't be shocked. If the Predators make it to 7 games, I won't be shocked. If either team wins game 7, I won't be shocked. I mean, this has been a series that's really been back and forth. I mean, as we've talked about, the argument could definitely be made that the Predators should be up 3-2, but they're not. But if they win on Friday, I'm not going to be surprised. I was a little surprised that they won last night, especially with how Vancouver came out. But the fact that they withstood Vancouver's push in that first period and kept it. What does that say? I may be wrong.
She's holding up. Is that a coaster?
Yes.
It may be wrong, but highly unlikely.
You have a lot of things.
I may be wrong, but it's highly unlikely.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's people know me, and people know that I like to be right. So
Andrew says the second power play unit might be the worst unit I've ever seen. It's basically the power kill. To your big picture point about the series, Emma, being like able to look at the big picture in the middle of it. If the Predators win Game 6 and then they lose Game 7, you have to point to the collapse as the reason they did not advance, because then they went on to win Games 5 and 6, and
you
that
mean
would have been
the Game 4 collapse.
Sorry, Game 4. What did I say? Game 4 collapse. Yes.
Okay. Well, you just said collapse. So I was like, well, that could mean a few things. But,
like the main collapse. That's also a problem that we don't know which collapse we're referring to when mentioning the collapse. No, I think the worst collapse that I've seen basically in franchise postseason history is Game 4. But so ultimately that collapse does become the reason they don't advance. If they go on and if they lose on Friday, then I think the better team won the series in a very fair and balanced and good quality series. So I think that's okay. Now, when it comes to the power play, I want to, because you mentioned Emma needing a hero. The power play, you mentioned, Adam, you think it's even worse than the Stars situation. I do think Vancouver's done an excellent job. You have to give them credit. They all make millions of dollars to play hockey too. And I think what's interesting is the whole story of the power play goal in the third period is interesting to me, because it's arch enemy number one, Dakota Joshua, getting a penalty with a little turnaround is fair play on some of his.
You never trust anybody with 2 first names. I'm just telling you that. That's the rule.
Adam, I said it after Game 1. I think he is going to be the person everyone hates, and again, he is so easy to hate if you're a Predators fan. I understand why you like him if you're a Vancouver fan.
Think about people who have 2 first names. Jake Paul seems like a douchebag. Logan Paul also seems like a douchebag. I don't know Dakota Joshua, but Predators fans think he's a douchebag. So you can never trust a guy with 2 first names. That's all I'm saying.
Valid. This is science. It's science. You can't argue science, guys. But the power play, because it's again, the Joshua thing is just an interesting part of the story that leads to and even in this power play, like, you could argue that was a dumb penalty that he shouldn't have taken. And then it's Roman Josi doing a heroic Roman Josi type thing, which is this crazy dive to the net, but it didn't go in. It wasn't going to be a goal. Part of the reason they scored is because Vancouver crashed the net so hard. And it was so chaotic that the puck just kind of floats in. And then you have Rick Tocchet not challenging. I actually don't think he would have won the challenge, but it was totally chaotic. He did not challenge in Game 4 when I think Forsberg deserves an Oscar for what happened in Game 4. I think he kicked the puck in and then acted like, what? Did it go in? I didn't know. Oh, we scored a goal. Okay. And Tocchet didn't challenge that one either. So I think I'm curious what you guys think. Not only Josi making a big play to break their power play drought, but sort of forcing the play and creating a bunch of energy where Vancouver has to respond and maybe be overzealous about it. And then, of course, not the challenge. So quickly, your thoughts on the whole sequence of events that led to tying the game.
Well, Roman Josi, look, there are probably 3 defensemen in the league that can make a play like Roman Josi did on that play. 2 of them are in this series, Quinn Hughes being the other one. And the other one is Cale Makar, who just freaking torched the Winnipeg Jets and the Avalanche just in general. That was a rough series if you're a Jets fan. But that Roman Josi has that game-breaking ability on the back end. Very few defensemen in the league can make that type of play. And he hadn't made that play in this series, and he needed to make that play, and he did. And as it relates to the challenge, Rick Tocchet said after the game that he felt it was 50-50. And I can understand his viewpoint. If they challenge there and they're wrong, the Predators tie the game and they get a power play. Now, maybe Rick Tocchet goes, I'm willing to take that risk because that power play can't score. So that's I think that was something that Canucks fans might be upset about. It's like, yes, you will get a penalty if you're wrong, but the Predators power play, other than this play just now, has proven to be ineffective through most of the series. So take the risk. The penalty kill has been playing well, but he didn't do that. And I understand when you're a coach in that situation, you want to play it safe, and you don't want to put your team at an inherent risk, even if the numbers suggest that if you put the other team on the power play, they're probably not going to score. I've stopped trying to guess what is considered to be goaltender interference or not. I mean, John Cooper had some interesting things to say about that after the Lightning were eliminated the other night. Probably used some language he regrets.
Or should regret.
Yes. Who knows? But like, I mean, I understand where Take was coming from by not doing it. Because as a coach, I mean, we can say, well, clearly they should challenge it, because if they're wrong, what are the Predators' power play going to score again? What's the likelihood of that happening? But I get it in the moment as the coach not wanting to take that risk. But I mean, I agree. I think it could have probably gone either way as whether or not it was goaltender.
All right. Before you chime in, Emma, sorry to interrupt you. Adam, I know you got to dip out here, so if you need to take off, I do appreciate you. Tell everybody where they can find you and kind of what you're doing for the playoff coverage here for all your different places.
Yes, so I am contributing to Sportsnet.ca's coverage of the series and the playoffs in general, and that games 3 and 4, and I'll be at game 6, assuming I can find a babysitter. So if anybody knows anybody who can watch my son for a few hours,
Can I offer up my wife and she's watching our 2 kids, which is not called babysitting, that's called parenting. But do you want to bring Arlo? You want to bring Arlo over here to our house?
You're volunteering your wife to watch my son?
Maybe.
Maybe you should ask her before.
Well,
I will say yes if she says yes.
Well, there's very few things. What I think makes like one of the most important things for parenting for young parents is to never, like, my wife and I have never said no to each other about anything, like, ever. Like, hey, you want to do this? You want to do that? Go to a concert, go to a game, go with your friends, go on a little overnight trip. Like, we never say no to each other about anything. It's one of the most important things. Learn how to solo parent as early as possible. And very rarely she's like, hey, I'm going to go hang out with my friends on Friday night. Very rarely I'm like, no, you can't. You can't go hang out with your friends on Friday night. I have to go cover the game on Friday night. It is game 6 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. You have to stay home and take care of the kids. I'm sorry. I love you, but no. It's like the first time I've said no in like 8 years. So she'll be home and hanging out with our kids. So I'll see. I'll text you.
Yeah, ask her first. I'm not foisting my son on your wife without her approval first.
Well, he's a lot to carry, man. He's a big guy. He's a big guy.
Yeah, he's pushing 30. He's over 30 pounds. He's a big fucking kid.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, guys, enjoy.
Oh man. All right. So Emma, power play, your thoughts on the power play. And we do appreciate Adam, of course, for hanging out with us. But and Michael, of course, will be back. So at MG Sports _ you can get to him on National Hockey Now. You can read all his coverage there. But the power play sort of sequence and how it unfolded. And then obviously sort of your reaction to what Adam just said.
Well, first of all, I think just with the power play in general, like I understand the frustration from fans, Preds fans watching this, because it seems like every time the Predators manage to get some sort of advantage within a game, within a series, they choke it away. It's like every time, like with the power play, they might get lucky, they get these, or they might like really earn, whatever advantage they get, but they manage to choke it away. And so I understand the frustration there. And I do understand, if I were Rick Tocchet, I would be like, okay, worst case scenario, Nashville goes on the power play. That's not a threat. But I think with goalie interference, I think the league has really cracked down on what their definition is of that. And I think that that's heightened during the playoffs. And so when it's 50-50 like that, I can kind of understand. And I'm sure he was talking to his video coaches too. I'm sure that they were probably watching and looking and saying, hey, there were a lot of guys involved there. It could have been one of our own guys. And so there was tough.
There was a lot of pushing and shoving on the Vancouver side for sure.
Yeah.
Which is just okay.
Yeah. And I think it's the goal itself. Like I said, I've been saying this for a while, that it was the ugly kind of goal that you need. It wasn't pretty. And even Roman said afterwards, he's like, I don't really know what happened. I just was kind of looked and saw it go in, and that's what matters.
Nyquist said literally the same thing. He's like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Hey,
rarely
that's okay.
rarely do you score a playoff saving road third period playoff goal to keep your team alive, and none of the people involved have any clue what actually happened.
Yeah. I mean,
but you need one of those. You need one of those.
That's what I said. You need that. And that is what is going to get under the skin and in the head of a inexperienced goaltender. And that is exactly the kind of play that you needed. And again, it's nothing against Shilovs. He's been great. Like, he's been very composed. Watching him, never would have guessed how young or inexperienced he is. He's handling it like a pro. So that's great. But yeah, I think it was a combination of things. Like, the power play was not good for the Predators, and that still concerns me. But Vancouver keeps taking kind of, like, I'm sorry, the boarding. I mean, yes, it was public enemy number 1, Dakota Joshua. Can't trust him. The boarding penalty on Evangelista, that was such a dumb penalty. It's like, why would you do that? And so, again, at the time, Preds power play, not really a threat. So you're probably thinking it's not that big of a deal. But if Vancouver is going to keep making these dumb plays and committing these dumb penalties, Nashville needs to be able to capitalize on that. And they haven't been. They were able to with the weird Roman Yossi goal last night, but that is something that needs to happen consistently. When it's the playoffs and it's a game of inches, you need to be able to rise to the occasion when you have that advantage and not choke it away every time.
Yep. I agree. And sometimes you just need your captain and your superstar, who's, I think, still underrated in the NHL and underrated in Preds history, even though he's considered one of the best of all time. I think that he is clearly the best player in franchise history, and that includes Pekka Rinne, Shea Weber, Philip Forsberg, etc. Sometimes you just need that guy to go make shit happen. And that's what he did, making that play. And as Adam said, only a few different players in the world can make that play happen. And look, you take a dumb penalty and you take an overzealous crash of the net and you take your tying goal with 13 minutes to go. And I agree that Tocchet probably doesn't need to challenge that, because you're the better team. You're at home. You're playing pretty well. And if there's 13 minutes to go in the game, like, I don't have any issue with him not challenging if I'm a Vancouver fan. I'm not blaming that on him, frankly, or the one in Game 4. Like, I'm kind of kidding about Forsberg. Like, it was clearly a kicking motion. Was it on purpose? I don't know. There's no way to legislate intent. So, like, I think it's okay not to challenge that. I don't blame him for either of those, and plus it worked out for him in that game. So ultimately, I got to give you some time here, because there's no Adam and there's no Michael, and I'll just give you some space to discuss Tyson Barrie. Now, I have not seen the analytics on his 60-minute performance last night, because there were a few moments where I didn't love it. There's a few moments where he clearly moved the puck well, and that's better than what Luke Schenn would be able to do. But let's start with the story on how he's even in the lineup in the first place, which is he's like arriving on the scratch bus 40 minutes before puck drop.
Yes. So he got there on the scratches bus with, whoever, Cody Glass, Jared Anderson, Dolan, Spencer Stastny. That's who's on that bus, and Tyson Barrie. So, like, these guys are not playing. And he gets there at 6:20, which is 20 minutes before warmups. He is not planning on playing. He is not, under any circumstances planning on playing. He's from Victoria, right by Vancouver. He was having a chill day. He said he took his dog for a walk by the river walk there. And
I have walked on that river walk. It is gorgeous.
It is. It's I go
wonderful.
every time I'm in Vancouver. I walk down there because
it's wonderful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So he did that. He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna have a chill day in my almost hometown. And he gets there, and as soon as he arrives at Rogers Arena on that scratch bus, he is told, hey, Schenner's sick. You've got to play. And I think that only a veteran with experience like that can rise to the occasion. My king, Tyson Barrie, who I have been championing. We all know that I have been on a crusade for Tyson Barrie for weeks now. I think.
So ultimately, did he deliver what you were expecting when you say, I think he should be in the lineup? Did you see what you needed to see that proved that you are correct on that? Or did you have questions?
I mean, so again, with everything I just said and how he wasn't planning on playing, and you don't want to make excuses for anybody, but you have to give him a little bit of grace here. There were some like his defense on that weird angle goal from Zadorov, I think his defense on that was a little suspect. Didn't love that. There were a few things, but again, he hasn't played a game since March 28th, and that's not necessarily his fault, if we're being honest. And so I think that he handled, like, overall, I think he handled it so well. What I've been saying and what Mike has been saying for weeks now is that his biggest upside to put him in the lineup is on the power play. He got an assist on the power play goal with Roman Josi. And so that in itself, I think, points to the fact that we were right. I am right about what he brings to the lineup. And I think, like, yes, he maybe made a couple errors, but I don't know. I don't think that there was anything glaring or anything. More importantly, I think I don't know. I think more importantly, it looks at, or it shows that he's not going to make any mistakes that Luke Schenn wouldn't make. I think there wasn't any point during the game where I said, oh man, Luke Schenn would never. Like, I don't know. I don't, to me, it's not even a question.
I think so. Josiah says it's the first time our power play has looked any good at all was when Tyson Barrie was on it. I'm not sure I'm going to go looked good yet. I'm not sure I'm going there, but I do. To your point, I think the mistakes, it looked like mistakes of a player who was rusty and hasn't been playing and wasn't prepared to play tonight. Not prepared like in like an unprofessional way. I just mean like was told he's not playing. And so with that,
how you rectify that is you keep him in the lineup for game 6.
Well, how sick is Luke Schenn? We don't know. Also, did you call him Schenner? That is not allowed. That's not allowed. Nicknames not allowed on the pod.
Okay, this wasn't me. I was quoting whoever was hypothetically saying that to Tyson Barrie, because they're not going to be like, "Hello, Tyson. Luke cannot play tonight." Like they, So I was trying to put myself in the moment.
But I think ultimately your point about Barrie is that while the mistakes can be attributed to the situation and the context, which I think is important, and I think that's totally fair. The question is, without that context, meaning, okay, now you got a game under your belt, now you're back at home, now you're told you're in the starting lineup. Does he add more to the team than Luke Schenn brings to the team? And I think it's fair to say, okay, now what this team really needs, because this is kind of ultimately, I think, the main point of if the Predators are going to survive, and that is they need a complete, consistent performance from the team, the hockey team, because UC Saros has had moments of brilliance and moments of major just what the hell just happened. The power play has been consistently bad. It needs to be a little bit more consistent. The defense, it seems I think the game 4 collapse is exclusively about poor defense from stars, whether and other guys like Luke Schenn, McDonough, Forsberg, O'Reilly, like they all missed coverages in game 4 to cost them that situation. They need their stars to be consistent. They need their goaltender to be consistent. They need the middle lines to be consistent. The most consistent thing in the entire series. And it happened a lot in the third period. I noticed it a lot in the third period last night. The most consistent, and you know where I'm going with this, the most consistent thing in the entire series for the Nashville Predators is the beef line. When someone is standing back post uncovered, you know who gets to that person and ties up the stick before the puck gets there? Cole fucking Smith. Every time.
He was every time on fire last night. He was out for blood last night. He looked really good.
Now, when on a 2-on-1 breakaway, they cannot score a goal.
No.
but they are consistently back checking, consistently covering their men in the offensive zone, consistently checking the slot in the high danger areas. They have consistently stopped scoring chances the entire series. They're the most consistent group, and they need the rest of the team to play 60 minutes of consistent hockey. And if they do that on Friday night, they will win the game and send it back to Vancouver. Who knows what happens in game 7? All bets are off. But if they get the consistency that you should see from the top line, I think Luke Evangelista played pretty well. I think he's due.
He's looked fantastic this whole series. I think just for another I was right moment, actually 2 moments combined.
Preds win game 5. I was right.
I'm going to ride this out as long as I can. Okay. Because I woke up feeling good this morning.
Cheers.
I okay, so first of all, it was so funny to me during game 4 even, but then also game 5, but mostly game 4, where I was looking on Twitter and seeing all the Vancouver media tweeting things like the Canucks just have no answer for Michael McCarron, Kiefer Sherwood, and Cole Smith. I'm like, imagine if someone tweeted that
Still did that.
last year. And like
Ugh.
people would have thought it was a joke. And I'm like, what a time to be alive, because I've been saying this, I've been championing them, especially Cole Smith, since last year when everyone hated him. I'm like, he's an amazing fucking player. He does so many things well, and he gets under the skin of the opponent. And that's what you need. You don't need him to put up 30 goals. Like, that's not his game, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And, when it comes to Sherwood, and this is a more recent I told you so, he's been the best player on that line, in my opinion, consistently through this series. He's been the best guy on that line. The line as a whole has looked very good.
I think
Sherwood, I think, has been the most consistently good guy on that line for a few reasons. He's got an underrated shot. I hated it for him so much when he hit that post last night. Like that, you hate it for him. And you see him go back to the bench and guys are patting him on the back, and it's like, it's okay, it's okay. But he, like, that was his game all the way through the American League. That was his game. He was a goal scorer.
Yeah.
And so many guys, if they're goal scorers, through junior and through the AHL, and then they get to the NHL and they can't score, they just flame out. And he hasn't done that. He has modified his game. He's adjusted his game to fit, what the team needs from him. He has become a pest. He's like a wrecking ball out there, and he's the smallest guy on that line, but he's still shoving guys around. And so I think that he really, like, he is everywhere. He's fast. He back checks. He forecheck. I mean, he just, again, this is another, I was right. I still think that Kiefer Sherwood needs a contract extension because he's playing like a guy who wants one. And I think he deserves it.
I think Brandon agrees with you. Extend Sherwood, he says in the comments.
Thank you, Brandon.
Canucks have no answer for the beef line, says Josiah. Nashville Hockey Now in the chat. We see you there. Barry had the 4th best on-ice goal differential among Preds skaters last night. And William says, Schenn was signed to be a physical force and clear the net. He has not done that with us. He looks to be on paid retirement. He has been a force on other teams. Look, he's an older player. That's fine. I think
so are some of the other. I mean, Gus Nyquist is an older player.
Dude, that guy, silky smooth getting into the zone all series long. I will say, and what I was getting to with the consistency thing of that particular line is how it feels like the defense, the 6 guys who are out there, whatever the lineup is. Like, I think we can count on Yossi. Yossi made plays on defense, offense. I mean, he kept him in the game in the first period, frankly. The point is that they don't seem to get the 6 of them together playing at their best at the same time. Like, I know you have some things to say about Ryan McDonagh. I know he's also been brilliant in other moments. He's a pretty consistent player for this team. Like, it seems like the defense is the thing that, like, whatever the combination of 6 players is, that it seems like on any given shift or any given period or any given game, someone's off. Like, somebody's off, and it's like they can't figure out how to all of them play a pretty good game together, it feels like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And it's not always the same guys who are off either.
Right.
It's from game to game. And
it's like they're passing the hot potato of suck around, going like, all right, you're gonna have the bad game tonight.
The hot potato of suck. I think that's gotta be your episode title. I think, okay, so with McDonagh, first of all, I'm not shitting on Ryan McDonagh. I'm not saying that he is the sole possessor of the hot potato of suck. I just think, like, McDonagh does so many good things out there. Like, he puts his body on the line. He makes some incredible saves. But sometimes, and this isn't like something he does all the time, but it's been fairly consistent throughout this series. And again, I don't think this is the Predators' only issue. I don't even think it's their biggest issue. So it's just I'm just mentioning it as, like, kind of an example of what you're saying. He might make a fantastic diving save in front of the net, and, like, it's like, oh, play of the game. Okay, but why did he have to do that? It's because he has just cleared the puck and put it right on Vancouver's tape, and then had to haul ass down to the other end of the ice and make that save on the breakaway. So I think that that's something that he's done consistently. Sometimes it doesn't even look like it doesn't even directly lead to a goal or a scoring chance or anything like that. Like, it depends on what Vancouver does with it. But I think that I don't know. I think that it's something that's been a consistent issue where he keeps clearing the puck and putting it right on Vancouver's tape every time.
He did
And
that.
like,
I want to say it was game 1. He did that a couple of times too, where you're like, whoa, what was
yeah,
that? What was that?
it was
Like,
like
why?
3 times in the
Like,
same game.
and like junior league stuff, you don't clear the puck
Yeah.
from behind your own goal line up the center of the ice. Like, you just
And
don't do
again,
that. So.
I'm not saying that.
No, he's had some great games too.
Yeah.
He's had
Well,
yeah.
even within games, he's had some
Yeah.
he's made some really dumb decisions, but then he's made some fantastic saves. And like, you could say the same. That's why, like, when Saros let that goal in last night, the Zadorov one, the 1.1% goal, like, that was bad. He should have had that for sure. And I tweeted out that was very unSaros like, and whoo,
Yeah.
got some differing opinions on that, and everyone was so quick to turn on him. And it's like, no, okay, yes, he makes mistakes, but he also has kept them in this game at certain points.
Well, Stasny and Shen started the series. They're now out of it. So they've already had rotational pieces have to step in and play bigger minutes than we probably or Brunette expected. William says, is that mashed or baked? It's clearly roasted, guys. If you are having the bad game and carrying the hot potato of suck, it's because you got roasted. That's it. It's obviously roasted. Brandon says, shinning on Ryan McDonough.
I did say shitting. I said shitting. If it sounded like shenning, maybe that's a Freudian slip. But
I heard shit. You definitely said
Okay.
shitting. I think he's turning it into an episode title for us. Shinning on Ryan McDonough, which neither of these will be the episode title. The episode title is Game 5: I was right. That is absolutely the episode title. We got to be positive.
Game 5, Emma was right.
We got to be positive.
Put some respect on my name. I was right.
I'll put it in quotes. All right. So I was gonna bring something up, but now I'm completely. Zucker, man. Zucker's been very good this series. I don't think we've talked enough about Jason Zucker, but that guy is a fecal agitator. He is stirring shit up. He's moving around. He's making plays.
Fecal agitator.
That's a Crispy taught me that one a long time ago.
That's a good one. That sounds like a Crispy-ism.
Because you can't say shit stirrer on the air, so you got to say fecal agitator. And he's on the bench yelling and screaming. And I think the refs were bad in the third period, and Zucker was pissed on a couple of calls where he's like screaming and yelling. He has been an energy and some activity from him all series long. I think if Evangelista and Zucker and those guys continue to play like that, I think eventually that has to cause some sort of breakthrough for them. And so, to your point about heroes in the NHL playoffs are never you have to have the big guys do the good things, but then you have to have that unexpected thing like Carrier, like that happened in Game 5. I wouldn't be surprised if the Predators win on Friday night. I wouldn't be surprised if Evangelista or Zucker breaks through in a big way, and because those two guys have been playing good hockey, I think, for most of the series.
Evangelista has looked fantastic this entire series. He has risen to, like, the moment does not look too big for him. He's risen to the occasion. You know, he's just done all the right things. And so that's been really promising to see. Regardless of what happens in Game 6 or potentially Game 7, he is going to be a star in this league. Like, this is fantastic news for the Predators' future. Regarding Zucker,
agreed.
I still don't know if I would sign him beyond this year, just because he is expensive. He's more expensive.
He doesn't fit in with the location of their rebuild. Does that make sense?
Right. No, yeah, he doesn't. And that's okay. But like, I would say I have to tip of the hat to Barry Trotz on this one, because that was a fantastic pickup at a, relatively a low risk, low price.
Agreed.
You get him to make this little playoff run. He's a guy who has playoff experience, and he is, like you said, he's an energy bug. He just gets out there and he's a fecal agitator. I like that one. And he, and also is generating offensive chances for them. So like, I think that he, you see him get fired up, and that kind of emotion and that just pressure that he brings, I think is huge for this playoff run. So he in particular has been, I think, a fantastic pickup for what the Preds are trying to do here.
So I we don't really do predictions, but sort of like what to expect. And I think I have a feeling we're going to see a similar game to Game 3 in Game 6. Now, I think every game, so we've had basically all one-score games. The Game 1 ended up with an empty netter, but that was basically a one-goal game the entire way and a one-goal game until the empty netter. Game 2, okay, that's the one where the Preds got a lucky bounce here and a lucky bounce there and kind of had a they got the empty netter as well, but that was not technically a one-goal game. Otherwise, it's been basically a one-goal score for the vast majority of the entire series, except for the third period in Game 4. But I feel like it's a Game 3 type of game where both teams are playing fairly well, but a mistake on a power play, a bad penalty, both goaltenders were solid in that game. Like, that game was the weird one, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that game's the one where you felt pretty good if you're a Preds fan. You also felt pretty good if you're a Canucks fan. The power play was why Vancouver had the lead, and the Predators couldn't generate a whole lot of good scoring chances the rest of the way. It's been a low shot series the entire way. So I think it's one score again. I think it's close. I think it's a couple of bad mistakes in the third period cost the team. And I have a feeling we're getting a similar style of game to Game 3, not outcome, but style of game. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And my pre-series prediction was Canucks in 6. At this point, like you said at the top of the show, you could tell me that either team would win, and I wouldn't be surprised at this point in Game 6. And that's the way this series has gone, which makes it such a fun series. And I think that, looking at, like you mentioned, they've all been low shot games. This is where I think that the Predators really do have an advantage, because the low shot thing, that's Vancouver's game all day. That's how they've always played. The Predators, especially if Philip Forsberg can start just putting a lot more pucks on the net, because he's had a career year in that regard and just shots alone. I think if they can start doing that and they can start getting to their game and playing more to their strengths, which under Andrew Brunette has been just putting shots on goal, I think that that's going to be big. I still think the power play is the biggest issue that I would like to see addressed, especially the way the series has gone. If Vancouver's going to keep making these dumb penalties, you got to be better on the power play. You got to be able to capitalize on that.
Great question by Andrew here. Vancouver stays with Shilovs, right? I think so. I would think they stay with him. I think so. I know DeSmith's been available, but I think they got to go with him. And then, of course, Mitch says, I'd still love to see Parson in it for Novak on Friday, if for nothing else, his size in the defensive zone. Novak is getting ragdolled. It is one of those things where every time he touches the puck, I do watch, and I'm like, I watch the end of even if he makes the play, he's still getting knocked over. So it's just one of those bad series, one of those bad matchups. All right. I agree. I have no idea what to expect on Friday night. I think it's going to be super fun. It's going to be loud. Bridgestone's going to be great. And we'll see if they can survive in advance. Either way, we are back on Saturday morning. That's right. We are committed to you guys. And we'll be back live Saturday morning at 9 a.m. To break it all down for you guys. Special thanks to Adam Vingan for jumping in. Michael Gallagher will be back in the saddle after Game 6. And, of course, for Emma, you can catch all of her stuff at thehockeynews.com, Emma_Lingan. All right, that just about does it. Lots of you in the comments. We do appreciate you guys. So if you want to share the product, write a review on the podcast, give us a thumbs up on YouTube, etc. That's very much appreciated. We do appreciate all you guys for hanging out with us. This has been super fun the morning after to get to react to these games. And we're going to do it again in Game 6. We got another one. Thanks to Yossi and that exact type of goal you're talking about. Alex Carrier.
Thanks to Emma. Thanks to Emma being right.
And Emma was right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will talk to you on Saturday.